Good morning. Welcome back to the farm. It's been a couple weeks since I did my last video of the market garden, and a lot has changed. It's been a crazy couple of weeks of work, and I'm excited to show you what has been going on and what has changed. So let's take a tour. The first 7 rows of my market garden this year is going to be called the neighbors section. I've got a few neighbors that are coming in and growing some things that don't fit in their own gardens, and I'm excited to see what they bring. Row number 1, if you remember, is Sue's garlic, and it is looking really lush. It's probably about 1.5 feet tall and looking great. And then the next 2 rows are open right now. But the following 2 rows, 4 and 5, I had some friends come in and they put in some cucumbers and peppers and tomatoes and squash, and looks like some marigolds in there too. And then row 6, you'll notice this fence appeared. This is going to be Julie's row, and she's going to plant tomatoes. And the fencing is so she can tie up her tomatoes to the fence and keep them upright and off the ground. And then row 7 is going to be, looks like a big weed patch right now, is going to be our community row of sweet potatoes. We did sweet potatoes last year and had so much fun with them, and they were great tasting. So we're going to do it again. So now we're back into my section of the garden, and this row I planted potatoes, regular potatoes. I don't normally plant potatoes because they're a big crop, they take up a lot of space, and when I was selling at the farmer's market, I just didn't have the space. Everything else was, filled with stuff I needed to grow to sell, and I didn't have the space to do potatoes. So this year we're doing 3 kinds of potatoes: red Nordland, a Yukon Gold, and then a purple potato whose name I can't remember at the moment. Anyway, so they're just popping up out of the ground, and I'll be hilling them up pretty soon. The next couple of rows, you remember the onions that I planted a couple weeks ago. They're looking great, as well as the Salanova lettuce. I've got more Salanova that needs to go in to this next row here, hopefully today. We'll see how today goes. And then the next row is the spinach, and I'm pretty excited about the spinach. It's looking great. Let me show you. So this is the spinach row. This part here I direct sowed into the ground, and it's coming up really nicely. I'm actually pretty pleased with this. There are a few blank spots here and there, but that's okay. And some weeds, so I need to get in here pretty soon and hoe. And then up here we have the section where I started plants in the greenhouse and put them out here. I was a little worried about them because they were struggling in the greenhouse, but they seem to have recovered once they got into the ground. Lost a few here and there, but that's okay, and they're looking pretty good. And then the last section that I direct sowed is looking okay, not great, but I think some of those plants will do just fine. So that's the spinach row. I'm really excited. I can't wait to pick some fresh spinach for my omelets in the morning. Yay! So next to the spinach, we have Swiss chard. And I've got about a half a row of Swiss chard. I may plant more. These are for us, but also I'm going to be selling this at the store up in town, and I may need more. So I've got starts in the greenhouse. We'll see how the demand goes, and I can pop more in for later in the season if I need it. And then next to the Swiss chard, another fence popped up. You can see that. And that's for sugar snap peas. I love sugar snap peas. I'll eat them right off the vine. Oh, so good. So I'm really excited they've come up, and they will attach to the fencing. And then further down on the fencing, I'll grow cucumbers, and then after that will be green beans, which I haven't planted yet. Anyway, so the next row was supposed to be another brassica row, but then I remembered, I have carrots I forgot to plant. So this row is going to be partially carrots. I think probably about a half a row of carrots, just for us. I'm not selling any. So I got to get those planted soon. The next couple of rows, I'll have to show you up close. They're covered with Protect Net because they are brassicas. And they are kale and broccoli and all sorts of good stuff. Let me show you. So here under the Protect Net, lift this up, I have broccoli and cauliflower, and further down I've got some sprouting broccoli, cabbages. They're under Protect Net when they're young like this, just to keep them, keep the flea beetles off and any other insects off. Once they get bigger, they will outgrow the height of the Protect Net, and I'll take it off, and then I'll be battling cabbage moths for the rest of the summer. But I have some tricks for that too, but for now they will be safely tucked under the Protect Net. They're on drip tape for irrigation. I've laid the tape, but I haven't hooked up the irrigation yet. It's been rainy enough that I haven't had to worry about it, but pretty soon I need to get that hooked up and going so they have enough water. I put these bigger crops, the kales and the broccolis, on drip tape because once they grow up and their leaves are, 2 feet or so above the ground, it's really hard to irrigate them with sprinklers and get water onto the ground where it's needed. It just kind of, rolls off the leaves. So a more efficient way to water them is using drip tapes, and that's worked pretty well so far. The next row is kale. I've got regular curly kale, and then further down the row I've got Dino kale, or Italian kale. And again, these guys are just going to hang out under Protect Net until they're big, and then we'll take the Protect Net off. And again, these are also on drip tape. Next to the kale and broccoli, I've got another brassica row that is sort of like what I call overflow brassicas. Just random brassicas that I like to sow. Here I've got a patch of radishes, and then a couple of Asian greens, Chinese cabbage, and a pak choi. These are just for our consumption, so I'm not growing a whole lot of them. And I will just kind of continually sow and transplant down the row as the season goes on. And eat well. Next to the big brassicas, I have my mixed greens and arugula rows that are going to be succession planted over the season. And the rows that I'm not currently planted on, I cover with tarps. Tarps have been a lifesaver for me in the garden. It keeps the weeds down, kills all the weeds that are right at the surface, and as long as I don't disturb the soil too much when I plant my mixed greens and arugula, the weeds are pretty under control. So if you have a weed problem in your garden, I highly recommend you get tarps from Farmer's Friend. You can cut them up. You can get one big tarp. And what I did was I got a 100-foot by 24-foot tarp, and I cut it up into strips. These are 4-foot wide, 100-foot long. And so I was able to get 6 strips out of one tarp. And I can rotate these tarps over the rows as I harvest them to kill the old plant material and any of the weeds before I go back and plant them again later in the season. As you can see, I've got one row fully under planting right now, and then this was the very first row that I planted earlier on that you saw in the first video, and it's ready to harvest. I'm so excited. One of the joys of farming for me is flipping open the row cover and finding a beautiful stand of greens. It looks so luscious. So this is my first bed of mixed greens. It's a mix of tatsoi, Tokyo bacana, a couple of different mustards. So it's a little bit spicy, not too spicy. And it's just a lovely salad mix, or you can mix it with lettuce and make a really good salad mix. You can also stir fry these greens or steam them. I love throwing them in omelets. They're really, really good. Further down the row, I've got a section of baby arugula, and it's looking pretty lush as well. Well, that's the latest on the market garden. You can see in just a couple of weeks it's already transformed into a much greener and lusher place. Stay tuned for continued updates from the market garden. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye.